Hello and welcome back to another episode of the DIYguy.net.
Alright, today we're going to show you how to make a square bale hay feeder. This is going to work well for sheep and goats and other small farm animals. What this feeder is going to allow you to do is keep the hay up off the ground and contained. That way it's not getting pulled out and onto the wet ground and getting wet and moldy or trampled on by the animals. Alright, so we're just going to use leftover lumber we had lying around from various projects to build ours, but you can pick up all this stuff at your local lumber yard. So we're going to need a sheet of plywood, some 6x6s or 4x4s. You can use treated or untreated, it's up to you. They're going to touch the ground. This person preferred untreated wood. We got some 2x6s going along the back there. We're going to need a few of those as well. You're also going to need some box wire fence. You make sure you get a heavy gauge because that's what's actually going to hold the hay in there, and the goats or sheep are going to be pulling against it. These are 6-inch by 8-inch squares. Some of the tools you may need: some screws, impact driver or screw gun to put them in, tape measure, pencil and level, some bolt cutters to cut our fence, circular saw to cut the plywood, 2x6s and the 4x4s. We're going to cheat it and use the chainsaw to cut the 6x6s and the 2x6s. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is square up our base or a piece of plywood. We're going to use our tape measure, pencil, and level, and our circular saw to do so. We're going to make it 3 feet by 6 feet. So we're going to use these two edges as their factory, that we get a nice square platform. We'll do it in a few spots, that way we can make a nice straight line with our 4-foot level. Okay, once we got that, we'll go ahead and square it up with our level. Make a nice straight line. Alright, so now that we got our 3-foot line marked out, we can measure from this side to that side and mark out our 6-foot line. Go ahead and use our level, make a nice straight line, so we cut it off with a circular saw. Alright, so we have our 3-foot line marked out and our 6-foot line marked out up there. We'll go ahead and circular saw and square this up. Be sure there's nothing under your plywood that you're going to cut into or damage your saw with. Alright, so now that we finished squaring up the plywood or the base, we can go ahead and set that aside. Next we can go ahead and cut the 6x6s to 3 feet as well. As we're going to run one right here on the outside, one right down the center, and one on the far side. That's actually going to be the feet to the base that are actually going to contact the ground. The reason we're staggering them out like that is that we could still come in with the tractor forks and pick this up if we ever have to move it, and we don't have to move it by hand. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and measure from the square edge here out 3 feet, make a mark, put an X on the side we don't want, we'll mark all 3. Alright, so now that we got our 6x6s cut to 3 feet in length, we got 3 of them. We can go ahead and set the plywood on top. Alright, so we got our plywood on. We want to make sure this face and this face is pretty much even. or a line. Then we'll go ahead and run a screw in it. We'll go to the other side, do the same thing. Then we'll run 2 more screws in the center of it to hold our plywood to our 6x6. You want to use some exterior screws or deckmate screws. We'll go ahead and do the same thing at the other 6x6 on the other end. Then we'll measure from one end to the center, 3 foot. We'll make a mark on both sides of the plywood, that way we can center our middle 6x6 up and screw that in as well. Screw this side up, and the screw down. Alright, now we got 4 on this side. We'll go ahead and do the other side. Alright, so now we have both end 6x6s attached to our piece of plywood. We'll go ahead and center our middle 6x6 on that line on both sides and screw that one down as well. Alright, so we finished attaching our plywood to our 6x6 feet or runners. Next we're going to grab a 2x6. We're going to cut 2 3-foot pieces and attach them on the left and right side of the feeder. Then we'll go ahead and measure across the front and the back to get the correct measurement. Cut 2 more to fit that. We'll go ahead and attach all 4 pieces onto the platform. Screw them to the 6x6 along the bottom. What that's going to do is raise up the edge here and create a border. That way whenever the animal pulls the hay out of the wire, it lands on the platform. It's not going to fall off as the 2x6 or 2x8. It's going to act as a border. Alright, so I just wanted to mention before you start cutting your 2x6s or 2x8s, the ends are going to meet up. So you want them relatively square, so you may want to use a speed square or a square to square them up. Like I said, we'll make the first 2 3 foot. It'll go left and right of our platform. Square, a nice straight line. We'll go ahead and use a circular saw, or whatever you want to cut it. So we got our boards cut. We got 2 of them cut to 3-foot lengths. Going to go left and right side of the platform. We'll go ahead and use our exterior deckmate screws and attach it to the side. We want to make sure this edge and the back edge is nice and flush, so when we attach our front and back board, they'll meet up nicely. You may want to take a tape measure and measure 2 or 3 inches into the board, make a nice line. That way you know you got it nice and evenly across. Go ahead, keep it level. And then we'll go ahead and run 3 or 4 more screws in it to tighten it up. Alright, so now that we got that side attached, we'll go ahead and attach the other side, keeping it at the same height. Alright, so now that we've finished attaching the left and right side of our border, we can go ahead and grab a tape measure, measure from the outside edge of both boards we just attached to get our length for our front and back board. Then we can go ahead and cut those out of our 2x6s. So this one just measures 75.5. We'll go ahead and grab our 2x6s and cut 2 at 75.5. Alright, so now that we finished cutting our front and back board to 75.5, one's going to go in the front, one's going to go in the back. We can go ahead and attach them. We're going to screw them into our 6x6s like we did our end ones. We're also going to toe screw it and screw through that board and into our end board on all 4 corners to give it some more strength. Alright, so now we got the front board on, we can go ahead and attach the back board. Alright, so now that we got the base completed, we can go ahead and make an upright for the left and right side. We'll cut a board to make a T for the top. We're going to make the upright 48 inches and the one going horizontal 34 inches. So we'll go ahead and cut those, screw them down to the center of the base. Alright, so we got our 48-inch one cut. We're going to go ahead and mark out the center, left and right. Go ahead and make a mark, and we'll go ahead and try to keep this board in the middle of the base. You may want to use a level on the side here to tell you if you're leaning or not. We'll go ahead and use our center mark there. We'll go ahead and grab our level. Level it up before we start the other screws. We screwed the 2x6 on the outside of the box. When we go up top, we're going to put the 34-inch on the inside of that riser. Want to keep that board centered left to right as well. You also want to make sure the top is nice and flush. Alright, now that we have this side done, we go ahead and repeat the process to do the other side. Alright, so this is what it should look like now. We got our 48-inch risers on. We got our 34-inch cross pieces going across. Next, we can grab our bolt cutters, cut our wire to 4 feet or 48 inches by 6 feet, 72 inches. We're going to need 2 pieces of wire, that way we can make a V, and the hay will sit in the middle of the V. Alright, so once we got our wire cut, we're going to go ahead and make a line right down the center of the box. That way we know where the 2 pieces of wire are going to join up or meet. So we know our box is 36 inches, so we'll go right down the middle at 18. We'll go ahead and make a nice boulder line using our level. Hopefully the camera can see that. Alright, so now that we got our line, we can go ahead and grab our wire that's cut to 4x6. We'll go ahead and slide it in. You may have to notch your corners to fit down inside the base. So we've cut 3 inches off the side and about 1.5 inches inward. So we'll go ahead and slide our wire into the bottom, get both pieces in, align it with that line, and we'll go ahead and use some galvanized strapping, 1.25 inch screws, and screw it down on each side of the fencing. We don't want it super tight, that way we can raise them up and get them into the top pieces. So we got one side in. We'll go ahead and grab this side. This part is nice if you do have 2 people, makes it a little easier. You're not trying to fight it all yourself. Alright, so now that we got our fence in, we can go ahead and grab that galvanized pipe strapping, pair of shears or tin snips, and cut about 3 or 4 inch pieces. And then we'll go ahead and use those 1.25 inch screws and screw it to our base. Alright, so we got a handful of our 1.25 inch screws. We're going to go ahead and screw on those pieces. We'll get one down the other end. So next we'll go ahead and cut some banding. We'll go ahead and move the fence to the outside of our T's, and we'll go ahead and put a piece of banding to tie the fence to our corner post or our T to give it some strength. We want the fencing pretty close to the edge, as we're going to add a 2x4 on each end to close it in. That way the fence will lean against that 2x4 and give it some extra strength. We can also add some banding around the fencing to that 2x4 to give it some extra strength. Alright, so now we finished our banding on each 4 corners to hold the fencing. We can go ahead and measure from end to end. Ours is 76.5. We'll go ahead and cut a 2x4 to fit that, and then go ahead and screw it on to make a complete box at the top to hold our fencing. Like I said, you can also cut some banding and go ahead and screw it around the fencing to that 2x4 to give it some extra strength so it doesn't slouch inside the frame. Alright, so we got the back one installed now. We'll go ahead and install the front one to make the top part of the box. Alright, so we finished screwing on our front and back board. We made that complete box around the top part of the wire. We can use some of that pipe strapping. Go ahead and cut some small pieces and screw it into that board to hold that fence up against the board. You may also want to close in your ends. We're going to close in ours, so we got some of that extra wire. We're going to go ahead and cut a little V spot. Go ahead and slide it down in there, and we're going to use that wire strapping to hold it to our upright. That way no hay gets out of the ends of our hay feeder. Alright, so we finished cutting our wire. It's going to be 3 boxes by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th one is just the box itself, as it'll fit right down inside. Like I said, we'll use that pipe strapping and hold it against this upright, and that'll close in the end of the feeder to make sure no hay comes out of it. Alright, so I know it's hard to tell, but we got the ends closed up. We'll go ahead and run some pipe strapping around the top just to affix our wire to those boards. And then we'll go ahead and show you what the finished product looks like. Alright, so we finished closing our ends. We got banding top and bottom to hold those end pieces from shifting around or moving. That way no hay will come out of the end of the hay feeder. We also did 1, 2, 3 bandings across the top to hold that wire to our top box, just to make sure when we throw hay in, we don't end up bending the wire or the fence, causing it to go below that 2x and popping out. So it just adds a little bit of strength. So this one's ready to go. So we'll go ahead and take a quick little walk around just so you can see different angles of it. Like I said, we got 1, 2, 3 going on the top, 1, 2, 3 front and back. We did top and bottom for our end pieces to make sure no hay will come out either end. So that's it. We just showed you how to make a square bale hay feeder for your goats, sheep, or other small farm animals.
Don't forget to click the link in the description, which will take you to our website for a full write-up. You can also click that subscribe button in the middle. On the right, we have a recommended video just for you. And on the left, you'll find our recent upload. Thanks for watching another episode of the DIYguy.net.